Now go to mute.
So welcome everyone. Really grateful to have everyone here at this Religion 101 for the month of August. Religion 101 is sponsored by the South Coast Interfaith Council and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My name is James Light, and I know many of you that have participated in other Religion 101s, which is really great. And I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I'm happy for the great, wonderful opportunity that I have to organize and to bring ideas from other SCIC board members of great speakers, just like the one that we have this evening. So before I introduce our speaker, Daniel Eagle Warrior Ramos, I want to first give a little bit of an orientation about just sort of the way we do Religion 101. We will have our speaker lead us in any kind of word of prayer or expression of faith that is part of his practice. And then we'll give him about an hour or so. Typically, that's how much time we take to talk about his faith, the origin of his religion or religious practice or faith practice, the common practices and important concepts or doctrines in his community, in his faith community. And then I always ask our speakers to talk about what they do in their community to help young people make good choices. And we'll hear from Daniel for about that amount of time or whatever time it takes for him. And then we'll open it up to questions. And usually our questions go anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. And but we'll just keep together as long as people have questions and we have a great discussion, which we always do. Now, I always remind folks, and everyone that participates is so great at this, so I know it's just I'm preaching to the choir, but I am careful to remind folks that our intent in Religion 101 is to really take the opportunity to learn from our featured speaker. And so we often will have discussions and can often share maybe some practice that we do in our religious community that is similar or even different because it helps us to learn. But our intent is always, we're not here to debate or to have like a debate about whether or not something is, this or that or as the case may be. It really is oriented about having discussion that helps us to learn more, even through comparison and contrast with our own practices, to learn as much as we can about the community that is represented by our speakers. So at the end, I will give an announcement of our upcoming Religion 101 in September. But in the meantime, I'm happy to turn it over to Daniel to speak with us. So Daniel, the group community is yours.
Greetings, family. Yowie. And that's a common greeting. I'm also, in a very small way, part Dene or Navajo. So in the greeting of the Navajo people, Yate Bene. As an elder once told me that I asked, "What is that?" After he told me that I was part Navajo, and he says, "That's between heaven and earth. Greeting." Like, oh, so that's a nice way to say hello to people, heaven and earth. A little better than what's up. I am Choctaw, Muskogee, Yamassee, 3-tribe nation. I've been adopted into my nation by my son, who's the chief, He is Rashid Stone Coyote Patton. Yeah, there you go. Stone Coyote Patton. I forget about some of this technology and how it does these things. Thank you so much, James. And he's Yamassee on one side and Choctaw Muskogee on the other, and has now brought forward the new Rainbow Tribe. I like to share that part. We're not federally recognized, but we are recognized by the federal government. We call ourselves autonomous. There are many autonomous tribes. Some have not been recognized by the federal government, who they're looking for in regards to possible aid. And then there are tribes like the Choctaw Muskogee Yamassee. We don't look to be funded by the colonizers. We like to be complete, pure, sovereign people. So with that, that's just a part of my introduction. The other part of my traditional introduction I'll give to you in the traditional ways. It comes from the De La Rosa clan, the Rose clan people on my mother's side. And on my father's side, come from the Rios Perez clan. That's my birth parents. My second parents, I was given up at birth by my birth mother, who loved me so much. Her hopes was I would be raised with a good family. So my family, I come from the Casillas on my mother's side, and Baez Ramos on my father's side. My name, Daniel Ramos, was my second name. My first name given to me by my birth mother was is Marcario Rodriguez Jr. I still have yet to find Marcario Sr. in the family that I so far have discovered recently. I would like to open, as we generally do, with a prayer. If you would join me in a prayer, I'd like for us to take a breath. You have a sip of some water, take some water, and hold that. Some of you have water containers. Miniwachoni and Lakota, water is life. Although I am Choctaw Muskogee Yamassee, we are the prophetic rainbow warrior tribe. My teachings came to me in the Lakota ways. So my prayer will be addressing many of the names of which it is we call Creator. And in that, I would like for you to again hold that breath for a moment, hold that water for a moment. In a conscious, subconscious way, let us come together in the circle of life through this prayer. Oh, the Kashala, Wankatung, Os Ho San, Oh Mateo, great and holy. We come together in the circle of life, this family, this beautiful family. We are here in the square screen through the unseen, and now we are metamorphosing into the circle of life. We come together in a mighty way, in a humble way, joining hearts together, joining breath together, joining minds. And in the one heart mind, come together in a way of beauty, a way of love, infinite and unconditional, beyond the reaches of the beyond. Before all was known, but still with the all-knowing. In this way, as family together here, with the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, come together to have this sharing heart circle, which it is, I surrender all myself, to be the empty vessel, to be the hollow bone that you can speak through in a message, whatever it is that I've been asked to bring forward. I ask that each one is in our circle, one mind and one breath and one heart, that you touch us in the most loving way so that we can feel and hear, see, and know that we are standing as one in the allness with you as our source, life being. And yes, the good Lord Jesus, truly a wonderful, amazing creator, son of all these things, he brought in his walk for Grandfather Pulscrow of the Lakota people when he was asked by a minister if he knew Jesus since he was a churchgoer. Said, yes, our people knew him before your people. There we are, all in the one circle of life, surrounded, embedded with the seed of the power of the universe, the one and only love for all things, for all living beings and all breathing things. Come together this evening for a beautiful sharing heart, teaching one another, learning from each other. Thank you for your mercies and all your grace. Whatever wisdom, whatever message comes through anyone that's in this circle, we are given to the fire that burns in the middle of our circle of life. All these things, the sacred waters that flow through us from the beginning of time, all joined together in the twin flame flame. Twin flame, mighty as it is, now stands all the love, all the joy, and the profound truth that is emerging in our world today. Thank you for bringing us forward to raise our frequency, our vibration, our essence, as spirit-based, spirit-nature people in the human vessel to help heal our world, support all in our community. With that, aho, talk yes. You all say sometimes, amen. Greetings. I'd like to also start off again by letting folks know that whatever it is I say or share, I have no intention, consciously or unconsciously, to bring any offense, disrespect, or to dishonor any of you in your own walk, in your own beliefs, in your own. In addition to that, take me also as a very humble elder, still learning to be an elder. And what it is I share as a messenger from my life experiences, from my elders, from those who I call teachers. And I share them with you with a transparent vulnerability, completely open. My heart, my walk, my path. To see not only me, but to see through me all the truths of what it is that I've been given to carry in this life, in this world. What I share is absolutely all that is. I am not an authority on the teachings. I am still learning. And if there's an elder out there who says they are, I would caution you to take all that they say as the truth. My journey has been one where I have heard many things from the same people in different parts of our world who have come from the same nation and who practice completely different. And so as I shall share with you what those experiences are for me in my work. With that, I would like to also, as part of our teaching today and sharing largely, most of it, and I see I'm not sharing with the choir here, I'm sharing with the choir here. I'm in the circle of spirit beings with joy-filled, wondrous people in these human shells who have the rejoicing of life within them that is pouring out. It's come together, this humble circle, for a visit today with this elder. And in our traditional way, many of you really do know this as your own practice as well. But I'd like to start off with a smudge. I am lighting my abalone shell. It also has some tobacco as an offering, sage, some crushed sage, which is used for cleansing and blessing. I will smudge you, family, if you'll accept my smudge. It has flat cedar, which is healing, the healing medicine for our people, of many peoples, not only Native Americans, but for many other peoples around the world. Smudging is a practice for many peoples. And for here on Turtle Island, we call USA, it is our practice here that we use to open our circles. So not only a cleansing, but it's also a blessing. I take an eagle feather that has been gifted to me for a purpose beyond myself. And I share the smoke, all of you, in a sacred way, in a good way, as we say, to let you know the smoke is the tangible evidence of prayer. I've been taught. Prayer is the unseen, but it certainly is an action. Praying is an action. So while prayer is now actively transformed back into smoke, from whence it may have come, with the medicines of sage, cedar, and tobacco, I move this forward in a traditional way of number of peoples. Put my feather down. And song. This song is also a good opening. I still learning some songs, but at the same time, this is a song that I've been given by medicine man and chief Elder Perez, Rios Perez, from the Tongva people, the Quiche people as they call themselves. If you know that clan, they're in Los Angeles. I was given permission by Uncle Ernie to sing this song because I'm not from the Chumash. It is a song sometimes you know called the Dolphin Song. When they came over the Rainbow Bridge, the Chumash had their story about how they have relations and are also part of the Dolphin Nation. But I was also told in family gatherings with the Chumash people that this is also an ancestor song. And whenever a gathering like this occurs, people come together for something good, to help, to support, for prayer, for healing. This is a song that calls our ancestors in from all the four directions. This is a time that we call all our grandmothers and grandfathers because you know they're always with us. Some people say the veil is thin. I was told a few years ago by the Spirit that there is no more veil. Today I walk with 40,000 ancestors by my side. Sometimes I can see your grandmothers and grandfathers when I stand and I'm speaking with you. They come through. Sometimes my grandmother knows your grandfather and taps me on the shoulder and says, they're relatives. so we're going to call these ancestors in. And I would ask that you join me if you know this song or if you hum it. Most songs are prayers, and so they're very repetitive. This is called a clacker. It's made out of wood, special kind of wood. I don't know if it's willow, which is what we use for a number of our ceremonies, but it was handcrafted by a beautiful woman up at Quail Springs, California, who was there on the land with Shumash's sister. and gifted this to me, and I learned to stop. Chumash don't use drums. Sometimes they use rattles, but most of the time it's a clapper. So with respect to California and all those who are joining from the coast, I sing this song to bring our ancestors in, and feel free to join. In 4 rounds. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Yum, deva, yum, deva. That was to the east. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. 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 Yum, deva, yum, deva. Now to the west. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Yum, deva, yum, deva. Now to the north. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Hey, 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 yum, deva. Yum, deva, yum, deva. Oh, Matakiyasin. As I shared with you, my teachings are Lakota. And I also, as I travel and I walk in transparent vulnerability, I share with you today this part of my life so that you are aware we all come from indigenous peoples. Right? Thank you for all the elders who are present today and those that are in between. Father, Alexo, good to see you. Wonderful. Also, just for your own information, in regards to today, a sharing of me in my transparent life. I was not raised in these ways. I was born at the General Hospital in East Los Angeles, right in the middle of the hood. And it was in that place that I came out of the beautiful, dark womb of my mother, of which today I crawl back into that dark womb of my mother when I hold sweat lodge. Go through my rebirth and renewing. This journey for me didn't start until I was 52. 70 revolutions around the sun these days. But one of the things that I share with you about that journey is that this was the beginning of the end of my drinking. A disease that is decimating our nations all across Turtle Island. A factual reality. Drug addiction and alcoholism. I was given to a Mexican American family to be raised as their own. And so they did. Unrelated, took me in, 3 days old, and loved me to life. brought the breath of life to me with a mother and a father. I was named after an uncle in the family, Daniel. And with that, my journey began. I went to the schools, to the colleges, local college, ELAC, UCLA, have a bachelor's degree in political science. I was walking with Bear long before I knew it, being a Bruin back in the day. Also, I'm part Southern people, as we call it, those south of the border. And many of us are today what we call part this and part that, and part this and part that. Today, we're many nations people. So I do walk with Southern to respect the family that raised me. And also, as I've just recently learned, my own DNA speaks that I am part from the place of Zacatecas, Mexico, and probably part of every other part of the hemisphere from Canada down. With that, though, my journey began learning the 12 steps in LA, the program. I was actually on the verge of losing. I've lost everything except my job at the time. Personal story. And during that time, following that, I ended up having this awakening. Many of us go through some sort of epiphany or awakenings of some sort. Sometimes this is how these things come. This is how you're brought from the circle. That comes from not out there, but from in here. In here, one morning I woke up. This drum was beating in my heart. That was so loud, it was that loud, and it was deafening, and it was coming from inside. I really thought seriously I was having a heart attack. Drove myself to the hospital. And as a result, I was perfectly fine. Doctors did all the testing they needed, sent me back to work, and I ended up going back again another week later. This happened for several months, and I stopped telling my coworkers at work that this was going on. I just had conversations with my supervisor. But I knew something was wrong, and I got to a place where I was afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid I wouldn't wake up. But it continued. Talked to a good friend of mine who's native from one of the tribes in Los Angeles, Rudy Burrell. And he said, Danny, how does that sound again? I told him, boom, 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 boom. He said, I don't know about you. He says, but that sounds like a powwow drum. Anybody know what a powwow is? Everybody been to powwow? You're in the middle of powwow season, especially in Los Angeles. He said, that sounds like a powwow drum. So I ended up getting a flyer about a powwow. And I got off of work a little early on a Saturday. I went down to Santa Fe Springs Park, where the Chumash hold their annual powwow. And across the street, while I was crossing the street, I heard the drums. Boom, boom, boom. It was all going on. The dancing was going on. I recognized this beat. And as such, I crossed the street, started walking through the crowd, all the vendors, all their handmade wares, porcupine spines, drums, various materials, ribbon shirts. I wore this in your honor. And everyone was going, Yate! Yate! And I'm like, how you doing? They acted like they knew me. I'll come back around here to a shorter part of the story. But what happened was after about 18 months of going to different powwows, but that I finally got stopped by an elder. Stopped me in my tracks. I had been to every powwow. Sometimes the last part of the powwow, sometimes all day at the powwow. Just walking around. I could feel that drum. And I have to share that after that first day, I stayed all day and through the night. And I had the soundest sleep that I hadn't had in a long time. That beat went away. I was connected. And I didn't know that. But I felt it. Over those months, I was walking, started dancing. I know the steps. I could feel the rhythm. I could say, Yate, responding back. Not knowing what I was saying, but I was being respectful. This elder stopped me. He told me to come into his canopy where his grandson and granddaughter were dancing in the arena. He told me, sit down. Sat down next to him. And he says, where are your people? And I said, he says, where are your people? I said, in East LA. Yeah. He looked at me and he was trying to figure out whether I was being smart or whether I was being dumb. I just blurted out. I told him I was raised in foster care and adopted. And he went, oh, many of our babies were taken from their lands and given to families that were not native. And it's the first time I had ever heard that. And I had just, by that time, I had already finished a career as a CPS worker for the Allied Department of Children and Family Services, as well as the probation office and the Department of Corrections parole agent. I had stopped, tired from those, now in an organizing career. And in that, I never heard that. He saw the bewildered look on my face that I'd never heard this before, and he said to me, "You're Dene." I had never heard that either. He said, "You're Dene." And I looked at him and he says, "You're Navajo. You're from the people." I don't know. Is that the profile? Might be. Maybe that is mine. And so he shared with me that people there at the powwow had been watching me come for those 18 months. And everyone was talking, saying, "Who is that guy? Does anybody know where his family is? Where's his family at?" And he says, "You walk around like Coyote." That was my first totem. I was called Coyote. So I was kind of like in and out, then leaving, coming back in, looking around. So at that time, his grandson and granddaughter had finished their dancing. They were in their regalias, all beautiful. And they walked in and they looked at me. I saw that they recognized me. And then they looked at their grandfather. And he says, "This is the Coyote." And they kind of smiled respectfully. And he said, "What's your name?" And I told him my name. And he said, the next time to his grandson, he said, "The next time you go to Sweat Lodge," he says, you give Elder Daniel a call. And you show him the ways." I started walking in a new way of praying, in a world that I had never been shown before, in a world I was truly unaware was still here. I was raised with institutional religion. That's part of the request of my birth mother. And in that, made my transitions to other as I was continuing to look around as I got older. But I found my way crawling into a sweat lodge for the first time on my knees in most humblest way and asking permission to pray. To pray not only for all of my relatives here and for all of my relations before me, but I also learned to pray for severed generations that are still coming. There's a humble way to learn the teachings of the Dene people, but it's actually a Lakota tradition, so you know. For those of you that may know some of our indigenous ways, because we are all indigenous peoples, whether you're across the big waters or southern or Canada, we all come from an indigenous circle of life. But what I've learned over the years is that Navajos really don't sweat. Navajos have hogans, and that's where their ceremonies are. But I have been sweating with Navajos, Hopis, Lakotas, Cheyennes, Apache, Yavapai, I've been to South Dakota for several of my dances. Have danced on the lands of Black Elk and Frank Full Scroll, Luther Standing Bear, a number of people, all these elders that most of us all know these names of from history that's been gone for a long time. But these traditions are still here. I come to you in a very humble way today, as my brother James invited me to come. And at first, my first inclination when he asked me about this religion 101, the mind said, no, because ours is not a religion. It was a way of life. And it was outlawed though, right? It was outlawed a long time ago. We used to go to secret places to hold our traditions, our sun dances, our vision quests, our sweat lodges. And those traditions have lived on. And then in the mid-70s or so, not the mid-80s, we were allowed to begin to practice our traditions because now the act of Congress gave us our ways back as long as we called it our religion. So it's just a note to make. And sometimes when we live a life that is a spiritual life, somewhere along the line, we get put into a corner where we're asked, so what's that religion? And it's not. It's a way of life. Ceremony is my life today, along with my partner. But through 18 years of sobriety, I started crawling in the sweat lodges after 4 years, and that pounding. And the Creator was working through the spirit of the 12-step program to bring me back to my place of origin, the starseed that lies within me, where Jesus put his hand, his finger, and planted a seed of life. You can call whatever it is you wish, but that spirit being, that Savior of many, brought forward this child who was given up at birth, who was loved so deeply and was prayed for to have a better life, that prayer was answered. I was brought up in a good way. Lots of love. Lots of brothers and sisters from different families. We were always a family of 12. So we were always our own tribe. These ways have brought me back into ceremonies where I use medicines that I've shared with you. I'm hoping that instead of seeing this, you see more of this. because I'm not here. This is the medicine world of many people, over 10,000 years old, as I've learned. And I wear this not to stand out. This is my everyday wear, except maybe my ribbon shirt. But I walk in public this way. Because the teaching is what it is. From what I've learned, I've been told to go teach. And so in a dream, after about 6 years of sobriety, I had a dream in my cousin's house in my bedroom. I woke up in the dark. I looked into the mirror as I'm looking at you right now, seeing my reflection. And in the dark, this light came on my face. And my head, my face disappeared. I was a headless form in that dark with that light. And to my awe of surprise, in just a split moment, this became my head and my face. I'd never seen this before, so I was still learning things. And the voice of Creator, God, spoke to me in that moment. Said, this is your medicine. Learn it and help the people. I'm still learning, but I do everything I can to help. I help young people who are facing addiction and alcoholism. Out here, I sit on a board, a recovery board that has young men, young women in their homes, and I help them to the teachings of Wabriety, the Native American 12-step program. It was created by Don Kotis, founder. I am a sun dancer. I don't say that to brag. I say that to let you know I've surrendered to the learning of a walk I've been called to. We all get a calling. If we don't know the call yet, we get a calling somewhere in life. My calling came after 50. And I surrendered. Said, I am here. I am willing. I am able. Since then, over this time, I have had the blessing of having so many blessings of inexplicable, mysterious occurrences in my life that there's no way that someone can tell me that God does not exist. The Creator, whatever name that might be, in my path, Wonka, Tonka, has shown me that we are one, interconnected, always. I am source as source is. Source is me as I am. I am not so that I am. I work with these young people. I help them through recovery actively. I help them learn sweat lodge. I help them learn to cut wood for sweat lodge, for the ceremony. I help them to come to learn what Sundance is about. Sundance. I listen. I listen to the stones. I listen to the trees. Standing tall nation, we call trees, speaks always. Stone people come into the sweat lodge are always carrying message. As they come from the hearth of the fire of life into the womb where the life is, and they give us healings, prayers. I was in a sweat lodge in Prescott Valley with an uncle from the South Dakota nation. And this beautiful red stone came in on a pitchfork, glowing red, turned itself around and faced me and turned into the face of a red jaguar. And it said, I am the red jaguar. Tell them that I am here. I've sat in a sweat lodge in the Paiute Nation up in Lone Pine near Bishop. And I sat in that sweat lodge, biggest sweat lodge I've ever sat in, for the Paiute Shoshone Nation. And there was a pounding in the ground. Having been born and raised in California, I know what an earthquake sounds like and feels like. And I was sitting there and I said, oh my God, there's an earthquake right in the middle of sweat lodge. Pounding, and then all of a sudden I could feel this hair in the dark, the hide of a buffalo, the snorting, coming through the sweat lodge. During the round, I'm sitting in the dark and they're passing right through. Sat next to an 80-year-old Japanese American who practices Dakota ways, Uncle Mo, Nishita, who lives in Chinatown, Sandals, with a sweat lodge of the Dakota people. And when we were finished with that lodge, and we were changing in our room, I looked at him and I said, Uncle Mo, did you feel that? His eyes went, phew. He said, you felt that too? I have stood at sunrise in the Arizona desert. I've seen a crow come out of the east, fly over the roof of the motel. I'm standing on the second floor, and a glint hits this crow. Here we got ravens, big raven. Hits this raven, and the next moment turns into a red-tailed hawk. The great mystery is always present. I share these things with these young people because, like them, I let them know you probably don't know that you are here for a higher purpose. No one's ever told you that you are a gift. Because most of these young people have always been told otherwise. These are young people who are on the road, as they say, to the wrong road. They say, you're here because you're a gift. Did you know that you had gifts? Their eyes light up. No one's ever said you're a gift. We've been waiting for you. The elders have been praying for you 7 generations out, and we knew you were coming. And now you're here. Next time I go to the sweat lodge, I'll tell the elders that young James is now here. He's strong, he's handsome, and he's gifted. He can draw, he can tag, he can slam poet. I do everything I can with what I have, what I've been given to help our children. Bring them into the fire service, hold a fire, share stories. I share this one story about how Creator came to me in the middle of the desert. I'll share with you as our time is coming to a close very soon. During that time of 4 years and 6 years, I was having these dreams. White buffalo calf woman came to me twice. Appeared to me in my dream. I'm on a cloud next to white buffalo calf woman on her cloud, and we're looking down on the Mother Earth. Thousands and thousands of teepees are below me. She says, tell them, Daniel, tell them that I am coming. I'm coming back. Tell them, are they following the ways? Sacred ways. She says, tell them. Will you tell them? I looked down and I said, yes. I didn't even know these ways. I was just learning. And She woke me up. So during this time with these dreams, I'm getting in my car in the middle of the night and driving. I drive for like almost another 18 months, about once a month, not twice a month, middle of the night on the weekend usually, and I end up in the Arizona desert. I don't know why. I am not under the influence. I am sober. Nothing else I've taken, but I'm standing in the middle of the desert watching the sunrise come up. If you haven't seen the sunrise in either Arizona or New Mexico, they're quite a sight. I'm standing there watching the sun come over the mountains. And I'm just bewildered. The last time I did that, I drove about a quarter mile into the desert, got out, walked about another quarter mile into the desert, and the sun started coming up like usual. For the first time that happened, I audibly said, "What am I doing?" I spoke these words into the universe. And right then, the earth beneath my feet began shaking like it did in that sweat lodge. That came after. But I'm feeling the earthquake. And then my feet start shaking. And then my legs start shaking, my knees, my thighs. I'm doing this. My head start doing this. And this energy came out of my head I had never experienced before. And a voice said, "You're home." Millisecond, in an audible voice, "You're home." My natural response, or reaction rather, was like, "What?" And again, only harder. The earth shook, my legs shook, my body shook, my head shook. I'm doing this, and a stronger energy shot right out of my head. And it said, "You're home." I had to hold that. And in a moment that seemed like an hour, I just melted. Because for the first time in my life, I knew I was home. And in that moment, I started to cry. And then like these big giant hands placed this beautiful robe of feathers around my shoulders. And I felt a peace that passes all understanding. And I came to know the all-knowing was with me. The many ways that are out there of Native American people we call here on Turtle Island, they're all different. What we do say is that there's no wrong way, no right. If your heart is in your ceremony, your heart and your mind are in your prayer, it comes from a good place. What happens is we call it in the sacred. Black Elk says, when we stand in the circle, like we are now, I see us in a circle. I don't see a square screen. And I know that circle has been brought through what you may call technology, but I call the unseen. We stand in this circle like we are now, with the power of the unseen. Sing the song for the ancestors. We make a prayer to come together as one people. Sacred comes. Sacred's here. We are the sacred. Today, we are all medicine. Because it's going to take all of us from every walk of life, from every path to the top of the mountain, to heal this world, to heal the world that we're in today. Because it is not the world that we know. It is not the world of our prayers. It is not the world of our ancestors, of what they're prayed for. That world lies here in the United Nations, right here. I am many nations people. If I don't have peace, serenity, harmony in my within, how can I expect the United Nations to bring peace and harmony, serenity in our world? That is our challenge today. Most of you are already there. I can feel you. Walk in prayer, walk in spirit, you laugh with joy, you lay your healings in, sometimes without words. They say the silence is the greatest language of all. The silent, unspoken. For the Native American, when we sit in silence, we call maybe meditation. But we sit in silence, and it's not in prayer. That is when we sit with Creator. We're completely language, silence. So today, it's the coming home time. My other teachings of the White Buffalo prophecies. White Buffalo prophecies say this is the time when all this time comes. And we all knew it was coming. We all knew it would be here. And it is here. We are the ones who are supposed to be here. Prophecy says this is the time when the coming together will occur. This is the time when the world will heal. It will heal through the sacred feminine, the life giver. The feminine even within the male masculine. But the sacred feminine that loves, the Christ love, the love beyond, like woman loves. As men, I am helping young men and even older men, not only to learn how to love again this way, but to remind them that this is what we need to remember. We loved this way before. We loved this way always. Because this was the love that Creator gave us to take care of and to love all beings. Everything that lives is in our care. And so I have been to Pine Ridge, then Crow Dog, we have Stanley Redbird, Mission Res. Heard the sacred tree of the Sundance speak to me. I'll end with this. Sacred elements of fire, water, air, and earth, always with us. It's who we are. But today, the traditions must evolve. Must evolve. But we as Native people sometimes get stuck in our own traditions. We don't know that Creator is showing us how we must evolve as a people in today's world. We can't keep cutting down all the trees and burning them for our ceremonies. It wasn't like the time before in the 1800s with millions and millions of acres of trees everywhere. Today, we're losing millions and millions of trees. How do we breathe? From the tree people, from the plant nation. When you get to the point where there are not enough trees, how are we going to ration oxygen? We're rationing water now. But we can heal the waters because the waters heal themselves. And when the waters heal, as they've shown me, they say, are the waters in you healed? I'm healed. Why aren't you healing? Because some people don't wish to be healed. Some people are afraid of the unknown. Some people like to have that pain because they don't know anything beyond that. But I'll let you know this. Our mission today as a circle of life is to mend the sacred hoop that's been broken, that Blackout spoke in 1890 on December 29th at Wounded Knee. He said, the sacred hoop has been broken. We are the ones to mend it today. Speak with an eagle feather, to burn our medicines and make our prayers, to run the prayer runs. We're here to do these things in our own ways and to help others. Prophecy of the medicine wheel is when the four races of man come together from the very beginning with all the teachings that Creator gave to them and each part of them, and they went to their part of the world, and we return from the four directions. We start teaching each other respectfully, lovingly, and we start learning from one another the other ways. It is then the prophecy of restoring and bringing harmony and peace in our world shall occur. I didn't say will, I said shall. If you know words in that way, the power of shall is greater than will. So it is. So it is. So I stand today before you, humble, but as a sovereign nation unto myself. I don't need to be anyone, because I am one with all. I don't need to be anything, because I am all things. I don't need to be seen. I am filled with the unseen. I know I am not finite, for I am infinite. I am not anywhere, because I am everywhere. I choose not to live in the overwhelming of life, but I choose to live, to love in the overflowing. Aho, Takias. I am at your disposal.
Thank you.
I yield.
Thank you so much. Really powerful presentation. So I know we all appreciate that. Why don't we open it up to questions? Does anyone have a question for Daniel? I have like a bunch, so if you don't, then don't worry. But I'm sure many of you have great questions as well, and I'll definitely want to hear from you. So who would like to share a question first? Go ahead, Ray.
Thank you, James. Daniel, thank you so much. My name is Ray from the Baha'i community in Orange County.
Oh, yes.
I was so moved by your presentation today, your sharing. And I was especially moved because I also came to my faith as a result of the 12 steps of recovery. And it just was kind of remarkable to me to hear your story. And in many ways, it's similar to my own, even though I grew up in London, England, in a Jewish family. But it's just wonderful to see how God can bring anybody into service. And I don't really have a question. I just wanted to tell you that I just loved your story and really appreciate everything that you're sharing with us and with the young people. And it's just a very beautiful thing to see somebody coming out of all that darkness and being able to be part of the light. So I just wanted to thank you.
Allow me, that's Lakota, gracious thanks. And I'll just add to this, Brother Ray. I don't know how many years you have, but if you've got more than 18, you're my elder now. But I have known many Native Americans who are also Baha'i. I spent about a week up in Washington State at in the city of Yelm with the Nisqually people, which a good number of them are also Baha'i as well. And it was one of the most powerful ceremonial weeks I've spent. And that was only several years ago with the elder council from the Oneida back east. So thank you very much. Much respect for Baha'i.
Thank you, Daniel.
You know, Daniel, I wanted to, before we call on Manak, one of the things that really strikes me is, and I think Ray resonated with that, but what really strikes me is that how powerful a message it is to young people to know that whatever that power is, whether it's God or a creator, as you express it, your experience that someone reached out to you directly to communicate with you in a compelling way. When you talk about, hearing that beat of the powwow drums, I think that's a very important message for young people to hear. That, in my church, we would say, God loves you. He knows every single one of us individually. He has that capacity. And when I hear like a person, when I hear an experience like what you shared, it really resonates with me, because it is that message that each and every one of us matter, and are, I guess you'd say, we're important enough to our creator, that creator wants to reach out to us and help us. And sometimes we're pushed into a situation where we listen, and then as we grow, we actively listen. We desire, we thirst for that communication, and we recognize it much easier and much more readily in our life. And I think that's something that I can see, I can recognize and admire how, when you share those experiences with young people, that it has such an important meaning to them. So I know, Ray, so that's a big part. I think that many of us probably share our own spiritual journeys are in part powerful because we've had that experience, that we've recognized it as such. We haven't said, oh, gee, that was heartburn or something else, or cold or whatever, or whatever coincidence, but we recognize it as divine speaking to us, communicating to us, showing us that we're loved and that we can be part of a bigger purpose. So thank you for, I just wanted to say I really recognize that. So
thank you. Thank you. A good part of that, as most of us probably all know, is that we interface with all aspects and age groups in our communities. I have found that they call at-risk youth is what I was referring to. That's the group generally that I've been asked to address, or I've come to visit, or I've offered to come and share a few words. And that's what I tell them. I said, I know that, you've been under this thing called at-risk youth, but you're a youth with gifts, not at risk. I don't know if anyone ever told you that, but I see you, and no one's ever said that. I did some volunteering at Vela, Volunteers of East Los Angeles, when I was in Los Angeles years ago. And I kind of adopted these two young girls that would come in and volunteer all the time with their mom. And I made them like, they're my daughter now, because they're so helpful and so loving and giving. And that was years ago. And I used to do some running, some 5K, 10Ks, half marathons. I'm blessed even still today to be able to jog a little like a lobo, like an old wolf, but old coyote. But last month in July, I invited this girl, now become young woman, who ran with me in my first LA marathon. She used to run with LA schools. And she came and she ran along with my partner. And we shared contributing 215 miles with 5 other runners from downtown LA to Lone Pine and Bishop, carrying prayer for peace, for all the children that have been found in unmarked graves in Canada, for murdered and missing Indigenous women and all relations. She came as I called her and said, "I'll come." I said, "Miha, we need you." And she came. Things change, little things just change people's lives. That was just remarkable. And when you put your trust into that spirit walk that was created, all you have to do is ask.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
why don't we have Manek go first, because he had raised his hand, and then who's next? Elaine after Manek?
Thank you.
Okay.
I think
please.
Cheryl had her hand up too.
Cheryl too. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get to you.
I'll try to keep my answers a little more concise.
Oh, no, that's fine. No, you don't have, I love hearing them, so we're fine.
Okay.
Manek, why don't you
Yeah.
ask your question?
Yeah, basically, I'm from the Zarathustra or Zoroastrian faith. That is a very ancient faith, just kind of like your faith, at least over 5,000 years ago or something, our prophet started it. And we have quite a few things in common. We also have revered the 4 elements, fire, water, earth, sky, all that. And we have short prayers of praise for each of these elements that we use. And we also have the prayer for, facing all the 4 directions, all the creations in all the 4 directions and all that. So one time I was surprised when I was attending a Native American, presentation in San Francisco, and he was doing this, with a little fire, and a little sage and all that burning, And so, there's a lot of things that, our religions have in common. And what I wanted to ask you was the visions that you saw, were they only when you were in that sweat lodge or even outside of it?
I'm blessed and humbled to receive day visions as well as night visions and dream times. I didn't ask. The power, and like I say, I know I'm sharing with the choir here.
Right.
The power of surrender is unfathomable. Unfathomable.
I see.
It's completely surrendered. My feet hit the floor in the morning. It's like I have 2 choices to walk.
I see.
I can walk in fear or I can walk in love.
Right.
I choose to walk in love.
I see. And the other question I had was that, are your young people now recovering from that, depression that happened to your tribes, after all the confiscation of lands and all the all the problems, your people suffered, discrimination, misunderstanding and all that. Are the young people now coming out of that kind of state?
A few are, but we still have not.
I see.
We still have not. Right here where I live in Yavapai County with the Yavapai Apache Nation,
Right.
just over the last 3 weeks. Last week we had a sister, a young teen sister,
Right.
of another sister who committed suicide.
Oh, yeah.
And I cannot imagine nor fathom the pain of that family, because she ended up committing suicide not more than 3 weeks earlier when her sister committed suicide.
I see.
And two or 3 weeks before that, 2 cousins one 18 and one 20.
Right.
What the 18-year-old stabbed the 20-year-old and killed him
Right.
over alcohol and drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Right. Right.
we've got a long ways to go
Yes.
among our people.
I know a Native American lady from the Chumash tribe. And she's a judge in the Superior Court of California. And one time I was talking to her. She was a member of our South Coast Interfaith Council at one time. And we were talking about the incident that happened at the Sweat Lodge that was conducted by this American guy and was kind of commercializing it. And she had tears in her eyes, to say she was very sad that they were commercializing a very sacred, ceremony that the Native Americans had, and so I kind of sympathize, with what your people have suffered. And I pray that, they will recover from that and regain their self-respect, and that then the people will also recognize the respect that you deserve, kind of thing. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes. I can't emphasize enough that language is a keystone for culture. And so as now we're beginning to see a bit of a resurgence across the country of elders who are still here with us, but many have left, but elders who still know the language. And sometimes in a big, large tribe, maybe there's only like half a dozen that still know the language. They're starting to bring them into the schools to teach the children, because the children don't have anyone else to learn from. They're not getting it at home in drug and alcoholic families. So we're making a turnaround, but it's a big shift to turn around, I'll tell you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Elaine, how about your question? And then Sharon.
Hi, I really enjoyed your presentation. My mother was Native American from the Karuk tribe of California. She was raised in the reservation in Oregon. I forgot the name of the town, but I think it was called the Klamath Reservation. And my father took me away from her when I was 4.5 years old and took me to Mexico. So I never knew anything about my mother, about her life, about even that she was raised in a reservation. I didn't know anything at all about her. And because I wanted to learn more about the Native Americans, so I studied Native American history, and it put me in her shoes as to all the things that her family, and how the children were taken away from their parents, which is kind of what happened with my mother. I'm sorry, I get very emotional.
Of course.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you is, how are the women's rituals different from the men's rituals? And is there an organization that I could look for to find out about these things? I am very interested in learning. I want to be more infused in the culture. And if you could, send me a link or, your email address, that would be wonderful. If you wouldn't mind teaching somebody, I would really appreciate it. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
That's beautiful. No, thank you. So you have a new journey.
Yes.
So and and so I know it's going to get a little getting used to, but you can at least from this chief, this spiritual elder of my people, as a chief, you can say, I am Native American from my mother's side, because you are. We're, like I said, we're all from indigenous people. So like you, I from northern people, and I'm also from the southern people. So we're the many nations people. We're the rainbow nation. But yes, I'll put my information in the chat for those of you that would care to. And I can't answer all the questions. I'd be more than happy to do that on a flow basis.
Well, how about it though, Daniel? What are the similarities and differences when women participate in the sweat lodge experience?
Yeah, the
I'm
women's
interested to
ritual.
hear. I think it's a great question, Elaine.
It is a great question. In a very general sense, because there are many different tribes with many different traditions between the men and the women. There are many tribes where women don't sweat. They don't sweat lodge because when woman is on her moon cycle, that is like the most sacred of all. It's like she's her own sacredness of what we do in the sweat lodge. We shed everything, and that's when you give up your old blood, bring in the new blood for the new cycle. That's bringing new life. That's the sweat lodge is part of that ceremony. Women often in certain tribes don't go to sweat lodge. They have their own. Men are the ones that they replicate what women go through when they sweat. Like here, the Yavapai, men and women can sweat together. Part of the nation, though, is also Apache. If you get an Apache part of the family, they'll tell you, as a man, it says, we don't sweat with the women. And we won't even sweat in a lodge where women have been in. So that's a very distinct difference. And so there are different also customs in the Hopi language. The word for saying thank you for women is asquali. For men, it's kwekwe. So there's differences even in language, traditional greetings and gatherings that people address themselves with that. So many of the things are done where the hunter-gatherer cycle is one that's now been distinguished, where women they do beating, they do regalia, men still do drums and rattles and things. So depending on what tribe that is, it would be very wonderful for you to find out what tribe that is that your mother came from, so you can find out and look into it. It's a beautiful journey. And I'll say this, if you don't go within, because it's all there, you'll go without.
Yeah.
That's what I was given.
I understand that. Yes, I understand that. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Elaine. Okay, hey, Cheryl.
Hi, I just have one question. First of all, your story is so powerful, so uplifting, and all of the things that you've experienced, and yet so sad for all of the suffering that your people have gone through. My question is, how did you become a chief?
I was as I was adopted into the Choctaw Muskogee Yamassee with my son, my tribal son now, who is the principal chief, and that is Rashid Stone Coyote Patton. He brought me in as a spiritual elder because they were continuing to grow the circle of the tribe. He then let me know that what he was going to be doing was also honoring me as a chief spiritual elder. We have ceremonial chief, we have a chief of procedures, we have a fire chief. Sometimes you have too many chiefs and not enough Indians, right? But I don't stand on the titles of things. I have a bonnet. Presented me with a bonnet, a Navajo bonnet, when I was in Los Angeles. Some years ago, it was actually blessed by Connie Begay, who is from the Begay family of Arizona, but she lives in LA. She actually blessed that bonnet and told me in Navajo, and then told me it was now time that I could put it on, because she made sure that it was done properly. And that's how I came to be chief. But It's only a title. And what I've learned about, chiefs of the past is that many chiefs are generally selected by their tribes, and they usually are the kindest, humblest, most giving, that people trust and rely on them. And it's just the unselfish, the selflessness that brings that forward. So it's something to walk. It's a humble walk, I'll say that. But it's the way that I choose to walk and surrender to walk, and it happens to come to be that way. And so, whoever thought, that I could come to this place in my time here. It's far beyond. Who would know that I would end up with 2 birth names? Who would know that I would even find my birth family because they never got married? I was born out of wedlock. There's hardly any records. I have one side that's kind of getting used to the idea, and the other side says, "Welcome, brother." But my family, they're gone now. I'm the only one that's left. It's like 2 nephews and great niece. But that's the family that gave me life. There are women chiefs, Cheryl. Just to let you know, there are women chiefs, and we need to honor women chiefs. We're not honoring the women chiefs. We are. A lot of tribes say they're matriarchal tribes, but that only says that they do things according to maybe the female, the feminine way. But we need to be matriarchal. I think Lila June speaks about being matriarchal, so that we have demonstrated that women are leading our people. That's the walk I walk. I've been actually even mistaken as a grandmother at times. So I'm glad to have surrendered that I can put that the grandmother spirit comes within me. And this young couple says, "Doesn't he look like your grandmother in Mexico?" and he goes, "Yeah, I told you." But yeah, it's what the tree in South Dakota told me at the last time that I did my sun dance in South Dakota. And I do it now in Arizona. But the tree said, "It is time to take the dance to the water. It's time to honor the women and their dance, honor the chiefs. It's time to have a dance where the women chiefs come and do their medicine and help the people." Because in that particular dance, a woman came with a bonnet. She was a chief, and she was denied her station as a chief in that dance. It broke my heart when I overheard the conversation. I was so close to the conversation. It was being whispered before going into the arena. That one, it just broke my heart. So I know that there's a time coming now. Sacred dances of Sundays, women dance, traditional ways, where the women can bring their garments and be honored. It's their healing time to heal us all.
Thank you. I appreciate all that you're sharing with us. I'm learning so much.
Much to learn.
Yeah, thank you, Cheryl. Anybody have a next question?
Yes, Elder Daniel, thank you so much for the presentation this evening. It's very enlightening. I don't really have a question, but I have several points where I think Christianity and Native American practices would resonate. First of all, when and I apologize, I'm a little late signing on here, but you were talking about smoke as the tangible evidence of prayer. I'm Greek Catholic. We use a lot of incense in our services, and we'd like to say that that's a symbol of our prayer rising. So I think there's a point of resonance right there.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate what you said, that Native American practices are not a religion, but rather a way of life. Christianity must be more than just ethics and moral laws. It must be a way of life as well.
Well said. Thank you.
It must be a way of life. I liked very much also your description of encountering the divine in silence. And for me, that resonates with our practice of contemplative prayer, quiet prayer, where you sit quietly, place yourself in the presence of God, and then listen listen to what God might be telling you. That's an ancient Christian practice which so many Christians have forgotten, and which we need to redevelop. Really need to redevelop. Also very much like the symbolism of the four races of humanity coming together and healing the world together. I think that's certainly a message for our time. Maybe an ancient practice, but it's a message certainly applicable to our dilemmas we're facing today. And then lastly, I'd like to congratulate you on your years of sobriety. I think that's a lesson for many people today, not only amongst Native Americans, but many people need to learn sobriety on many fronts. Thank you for your presentation tonight.
Thank you, Father. Thank you so very much for it. And I appreciate just being in your light as well.
No, thank you. We're all lighting up one another, right?
That's exactly. We are the one light.
Thank you, Father Alexi. Any other questions? I want to ask a question. I really appreciated your discussion about the sweat lodge. I know others have asked about it, and it resonates with when you talk about the spiritual experiences you've had. I'll call them spiritual experiences. I've had spiritual experiences when I go to our temple, and participate in the activities there, the ordinances and things like that. What I found is that when I will fast and pray, maybe a day in advance to going there, then I'm much more prepared myself to sort of have, and I'll say recognize and observe and see maybe those spiritual experiences. And so my question is for you, what is something that you do or that folks in your community would do in advance to prepare themselves for that experience in the sweat lodge? One thing you mentioned that I recognized was you talked about actually preparing the wood, right? So the labor that is associated with that, and maybe that is one thing, but could you share with us sort of what you do to prepare for that experience in the sweat lodge or in the lodge? I mean, you described that there are several different versions of that, but for that type of experience.
Yes, and thank you so much, James, too, because as has been spoken, and I'm sure by several others, if not everyone, fasting is also a part of our ceremony. So if you know you're going to be in the sweat lodge the next day, you start your fast at the beginning of that day. You bring some water, you bring some wood if you're not cutting wood. So you're preparing your body to shed, to let go the outerness by that fasting. Our most sacred ceremonies, and sweat lodge is generally referred to in Lakota as the Inuit. So Sundance is fasting for 4 days, no food, no water. Vision Quest is by yourself. That's maybe a 5 foot or 6 by 6 square with 104 prayer ties. So part of the preparation also is like making small tobacco ties. And you're making small tobacco ties, put the tie over the lodge, over your shell. You're making a prayer tie. You can put your stage, cleanse your stage, bless it, put it in this little piece of cloth, tie it. Usually there's a tie around here somewhere. You put in a little tie and you connect it with, you make 7 ties for the 7 directions, 4 directions, the above, below, and within. Different colors, the colors that you see here, along with green, blue, maybe purple. And you bring those with you to sweat lodge. Or if you get to sweat lodge early enough, in silence, you sit and you make your prayer ties, tie them together, you take them into the lodge. and you put them above you in the willow branch that's under blankets that are over that are covering you. You put them there for all the 4 rounds, and then you can take them out with you, and you can take them with you home, because all those prayers of everyone that was in the lodge and everything that was spoken and all the hard intention that was put in that space is in those prayer times. Or what people do also is when they come out, they take those prayer times and they throw them into the fire, and they release all those prayers and manifested intentions into the world. And like that, when I Sundance this year, when we do Sundance, we have sage. We wrap it in red cloth, which is a traditional color, like you see. And this is an anklet. I wear it around my ankles. I wear a couple around my wrist, and I wear one around my head. It's a crown of sage and cloth, and it's all in 4 days of prayer and dancing from sunrise to sunset, breaks in between, fasting, no food, no water, as much as you possibly can. Then, these you can keep these with you, or when you throw them into somebody's fire for a gathering, for a prayer, whichever, you release all those prayers into the world. And they resonate. If you're like in South Dakota, where they've been dancing there for 1,000 years, you're dancing there, you have all of this, you take all of that is put into these tangible things, these sacred objects that you can carry, and then you can share them. And so that is a big part of all our
Thanks for sharing that. I wanted to say it's fascinating to me when you talk about the cleansing effect of the sage and burning the sage. It makes me, it brings to my mind in my church, we talk a lot about being sanctified. And it's the idea that when you pray and there's a cleansing, it is to prepare you to receive spiritual things. So to me, the sanctification has to do with putting all of that effort into preparing and cleansing yourself, putting yourself in the right frame of mind, literally cleansing your mind and body so that you can be prepared to receive holy things or spiritual things. So that really is fascinating to me, because that's what it makes me think of, especially when you talk about the cleansing and on the different parts of your body, your head and the ankles and stuff like that. So that's very, and so you'll do that, and then at the end you'll go into the sweat lodge and participate in that. Is that sort of how it works?
Yes.
Okay.
There's what the fireman, the one who's tending to the fire, making sure the stones are always covered so that they're going to get red hot to be brought in. The fireman usually stands at the door before you go in, where you get up, crawl in, and he smudges sanctified. To use that.
Got it. Yeah, that's
you're
great.
all prepared, so when you go in, you're right. In other circumstances, though, we also use it not only for sanctification, but for clearing. Sometimes, because you're all good people, you walk the streets with road rage and people who are sick and all kinds of things. Sometimes you get to a place where you're kind of feeling like a little dragging. You don't know what's kind of holding you down. So we use sage to do that.
Well, we refer to being cleansed of the blood and sins of the generation. It's the idea that how we're affected by all of the negative things, and there's we have like some ceremonies that relate to sort of being shed from those kind of things as well as part of that sanctification process. So that totally lines up with sort of that idea that we share as well. So that's great.
Right. So our 4 sacred medicines are, as you see, tobacco, sage, sweetgrass, which is usually plains, this is not for, can't get this in California unless you buy it. But in the plains, the grasses grow like higher than a horse, and that's how they wind it in these kind of like a braid. They cut them. And
Yeah,
the
like
other,
woven. Yeah,
the last one
cool.
is cedar. We use cedar.
Ah,
Flat cedar, also plains-wise in northern area. But out here in like Arizona, you go to like Mount Humphreys, which is the highest mountain in Mount Humphreys, and you can get cedar from the cedar trees there, and it's different. It's still cedar, and that's what the Apache use when they use their service. Thank you so much.
that's great. Yeah, thanks. That's wonderful for you to share that. Thank you. Yeah, Manek?
Yeah, I had one more question. Was I didn't quite understand about the vision that you had about the devil, kind of a red glow or something with the ceremony, or what exactly happened?
Which one was that again?
The devil, you said at one point there was a vision that you saw of a devil. He says, "I am the devil," or something.
No,
No,
no.
I must
I
have.
think I shared how I saw a raven turn into a hawk.
Okay.
There was also the red jaguar.
Oh, the red jaguar.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Red jaguar. Yeah, that definitely was not the dark side.
Oh.
That was a good sign.
Oh, I see.
And because I also walk Southern people because my ancient lineage is also Mayan.
Oh, okay.
Then the red jaguar is very significant in that culture.
I see.
Part of my culture, and
Right.
and it's very hard to get a hold of as much information that I'd like to about the red jaguar. The jaguar medicine is very powerful. Like
Right.
I today, because I carry the jaguar. Today, as we close and we go off today,
Oh.
I can let you know that I will carry all of you like my spots
I see.
to take care of you.
Yeah. I must have misheard you. Sorry.
There you go. That's okay. That's all right.
Well, you heard the red part.
Right.
That's about it.
And red's a sacred. It's one of our sacred colors.
Right.
It's the vitality of Mother Earth and ourselves.
Right.
All right, great. Any other questions? I want to ask a question then. Donald, do you have a question? We'd be happy to hear from you.
Well, I'd like to hear your question first. You thought about this.
Okay.
A little one afterwards.
Yeah, so a lot of what you've shared, clearly resonates with our experiences and all the variety of different religions and stuff. And so I'm really curious, have you had lots of opportunities to interact with folks in what you'd call like an interfaith setting? Because I think that, and I understand and totally respect your thoughts, and I love what Father Alexi resonated as well. I share the philosophy as well that, we'll say we're not just Sunday go to meeting, we like live our religion like every day of our life and stuff. It really, that really is the people that I know of any religion or faith that are practicing it daily. It's just part of their life. I have lots and lots of respect for that. And I find that those are great people to be around. And so I'm interested maybe in your work with the youth or other settings. Do you have opportunities to work with others of different religions, and sort of what has your experience been as far as working in that kind of setting? Because I can see how much you offer that sort of resonates with different faiths. We all find that's the case, right? The more as we talk amongst ourselves, and we have had many different speakers, that we all recognize things in each other's religion and faith and practice that we share, and that's very meaningful to us. What has your experience been? Because and I guess even more general, just working with others, because I'm really fascinated, and it's quite compelling, the individual experiences that you had, especially initially, that you shared, and sort of how is that, that's very powerful. But there's also such great opportunities when you're with others, right? When you're gathered with others with a purpose, if it's ministering to the youth or in other settings. So can you share any thoughts on sort of what your experience has been in that kind of that aspect of the work that you do, that you're called to do?
Thank you very much. I've had some experiences, and they've all been good experiences, mostly when I was still in California and was being invited. I was very much more involved in the Los Angeles community there on many levels. And so it's been a while. I've been here about 7 years now. And I haven't had too many other experiences with the interfaith community here. Being a small town, and I don't do a lot of anything in Sedona. That's a whole nother story. I stay close to my ceremonial life here, but as I shared in the beginning, I've come to walk in transparent vulnerability, which means I'm open. I'm very open to helping and sharing, collaborating, integrating different things on behalf of youth, on behalf of community, on behalf of our teams especially. But whoever's, in one sense, whoever's saying, where do I find the elders to come and sit with? I've had that happen. I had a young woman when I was still working come up to me and knew I was beginning to walk this way and say, "Uncle, where do I go? Have the elders forgotten us?" And I don't believe she was talking only about the Native American elders. She was just looking for guidance and in an informal teaching setting where she could go, and maybe just a collective of the elders. And, there used to be in San Pedro, there were many winters gathering of elders for some years. And several years ago, the first one was held after about 10 years. I was there. I heard it was going to happen, and I made the journey and went. And it was a beautiful, beautiful ceremonial weekend. Bear dances, teachings, speaking. There's a big community there also that I'm still connected to, the American Indian Community Council. That's both city and county. I used to sit on that with that community group. So, but I'm available to assist, advise, counsel. I don't I don't make a living this way. I retired. I live simply and humbly, and I'm able to make ends meet. There are some people who monetize. I believe it's Manic may have been saying or shared that some people they do these things in order to make a living.
One experience I had, the one time that I was able to go to a powwow was when I was on vacation in Sedona, and there was a Digne powwow in Camp Verde, and there were a couple of things that really struck me. One was that when they prayed, it sounded like they were saying a prayer in a Mormon church, because it's just the way it was prayed. It's probably just me hearing it that way, but and they did start the event with prayer. And then the other thing, so to me, that part of sort of the spiritual call it religious part was just embedded. It wasn't really just a fun activity to come to and just do whatever, like going to the fair or something like that. And the other thing was that I could see that it was very family oriented. I mean, you had certain groups that were doing different activities, but there were lots of families around and children that were participating. And also the third thing was that it was very inclusive. There was a part where anybody could come down and dance, right? Participate in it. And it was fun. It was a great experience. And it was like you're about as classic of a good family fun experience that you could have. And so I can, I think it would be so great if we had those kinds of events here. I think that there is, we have so much like going to Disneyland and stuff like that, but there's a need for that, and people can be drawn to that. The opportunity to go just have an enjoyable time in a family type of experience, and with the culture, sort of learning the culture, participating, listening to the music, the vocal music, the instrumental music, the sharing, and seeing people in the clothing and cultural and traditional dress. It really is a really it's an experience that you just can't buy, right? It really is a priceless experience. So I would hope that I would see something like that, those types of gatherings, in the South Bay. Would be great. I'd love to go participate. It would be such a great experience, So anyway, but I clearly recognize that in going to that, it was about as family oriented as as an event could be, and it just had all of those really good positive things in it. So
it's one of the most social ceremonial gatherings that is done by many tribes that come together, and you're right, it is all about family. But most of the vendors, that's how they make their living, going from one powwow to another during the powwow season. What you don't know is that when you get there and everything's already all set up, you didn't know that before dawn that there was an elder out there that with the circle that had already been drawn for the whole arena, where everyone would be coming and setting up. He goes and he lays tobacco around that entire circle, saying a prayer, sanctifying the ground for what's coming, what's occurring, with all the dancing, all the praying, all the families, all the healing. All these things occur. I know because I've done that. For powwow, I was asked to do that. And
yeah, for sure, to sort of prepare this and prepare the space, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like dedicate it. Yeah, for sure. That's great. Okay, any other questions?
Anytime you can get into that intertribal, like you were saying, when they invite you to come down from the stands, you gotta go. There's magic in that arena. There's so much magic. It's so beautiful, and see the children all dancing around, and the grandmas and grandpas, and oh man, I tell you, it's something about that space that's been put together, and everyone's been doing everything. Oh, just to go in there, it's like
no doubt
diving into a big pool, and it's wonderful.
It felt that way, no question. It was a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Donald, did you have a question?
Well, I did, but I think time's up, so I'll pass on it. But
no, come on, ask your question, and we got time. We got a couple minutes left. Please do.
I'm looking at this through several filters. One is trying to figure out the essential commonalities between all the tribes, because there's no one Native American way of life or a religion or belief system. So there are certain commonalities like powwows and whatever. And what those are, like the idea of a creator, and the oneness of life and men and nature and sacred holy spaces and family, ancestors. There's certain commonalities that are essential between all the tribes on it. And then there's certain commonalities with the various faith groups. I look at our or I look at the various faith groups represented here, and there's certain common denominators that like a higher being and this sort of thing that we all share together. It's intriguing to explore those commonalities within different faith groups and within the various tribes. And I was wondering if there's any place, the idea of meditation, robes, peace, and improving improving ourselves and whatever. But is there a place that you like to go to, David, or Elder David, to explore these commonalities between tribes? Is there some sort of central place that they've agreed to go to for their commonalities? Share practices about powwows or whatever. What is the best site on the website? On the web, what's good? What's a good website?
Well, there's powwow.com. You can see what powwows are happening. Also, in the area, there should be some in Los Angeles. I don't know, because there was one almost every weekend during this summertime that we're in. I really miss that because there are very few out here.
Yeah.
And those are generally, powwows are generally where we all come together and we share those commonalities, and there's presentations sometimes, there's gift giving, we celebrate Mother's Day, we bring roses for all the moms and the grandmothers and little gifts, and it's a real family oriented type of affair and event and gathering. So aside from that, when we do come together, like say Sweat Lodge, there are oftentimes other tribes that are present, not just a particular tribe holding the Sweat Lodge. People have been invited. It's usually a personal invite, not a public invite. And so what you do, wherever you're at, this is the general rule. It's not written anywhere. Oral history is still a part of our ways of doing things. But if I happen to go to go back to California and I'm invited to a sweat lodge that's being run by a Shumash medicine man or elder, I do everything there according to the way the Shumash do. I don't say, oh, I do things this way, or I'm not. I can't do that because that's not my way. If I surrender myself and volunteer to go, then I honor and respect the people's land and their ways of wherever it is I am.
Well, thank you. I don't want to take more time. I was interested in the essence of the ways of belief that are shared with all of the tribes, and I think I have some of them, but I don't know if there's anything else online. But as you say, it's more of an oral tradition than a lot of the Catholics have a lot of writings to learn from, but I guess that isn't there with the Native Americans.
Well, we're still waiting for the codices to come out of the Vatican.
Yeah, right. And thank you, Deb.
Right, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Donald. Well, thanks everyone. We'll leave it to Daniel. Before we finish and give you a chance to offer another wonderful prayer, I just want to give a quick plug for our next Religion 101 is in September. It's going to be the Reverend Elena Larson. She is affiliated with the United Church of Christ and the Congregational Church, and she actually is on the East Coast now, and so she was at Long Beach, First Congregational Church of Long Beach, so it'll be interesting to hear from her, so we're really looking forward to that. So with that, Daniel, I'll leave it to you if you'd like to offer some closing prayer or words. That would be very wonderful. Yes. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Kashla, Onkatonka. We are grateful. Our hearts are overflowing. Gratitude, with love, with the joy of sharing self with others who appreciate, respect, and honor all that you've brought us to. And here we are. And in that circle of life, we are doing and weaving and reweaving anew the broken part of the mended hoop for which it is that we are still here for. And with that, all those who share this circle, the Southern California Interfaith Council, bless them with the overflowing, infinite, fill their lives with the abundance of joy. We have a birthright as your children to have an abundant life in all areas and all realms of our living. And in that, I bless everyone with the blessings that have been given to me. I pass through and onto you in the most loving, humble way. Gratefully and graciously give thanks. Oh, God bless.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone. Y'all have a great evening, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
And the Morongo powwow is a good one. I saw the chat. If you can make a powwow, make a Morongo. It's a good one.
All
Take
right.
care, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Love
Bye,
you.
everyone. Good night.
Love you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.